Hey, welcome back to another episode of the Daniel Greenland YouTube channel. I took a little bit of a break, but I'm excited to get back to doing some videos. Today I have a really unique interview. I've been kind of on this journal kick. I really can't express to you the importance of journals, and so I interviewed Dirk Atherley, who you're about to see, and he tells his experience, and I've broken it up into a couple parts. His experience of the effect of his mother's journal on him. So he'll give you some insight, and I just think it's an interesting perspective. You know, what effect would your parents, your grandparents, your aunt, uncle's journal, if they wrote about you, if they talked about things interesting to you, what effect would that have on you? And so you get to see that in just a little snippet of what effects it had on Dirk. So I'm just going to go right into it. Enjoy part one, and I'll have the subsequent parts after when did you, so you have this journal here, maybe you could show the camera. Is this the only journal that your mom wrote?
No, I'm not sure exactly how many she has, but she probably has 12 to 15, maybe, around that area.
Wow. And do you have all of them?
No, they're all up there with her. She gave me this one for now when I finish this, and I'm almost done with it.
She'll give me the next one.
Right.
She wants you to make you cherish it, then give you another one.
Right.
Something like that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And how far are you into it?
So this one I'm 3/4. I probably could finish this off. It depends on how much I read, but I'm more than 3/4 of the way. I'm probably 7/8 of it's finished. I'll probably only have about 20 pages left.
Wow. Yeah, it's a pretty big one, and that's 150 pages. That's a big journal. I don't know.
Yeah, it's at least that. And it spans from January 1st, 1977 to January 12th, 1980.
Wow.
And this was basically in my high school years. And I know she started before that. She says this is her first one, but I don't know. All I know is
77 to 80. How old are you?
I'm 60.
No, how old are you in
this.
high school?
Yes, I was like 17, 16, 17, 18,
Wow.
right there.
Okay.
Yeah, and so this one is extremely interesting to me because of that point in time in your age bracket. Usually that's probably the most important time in your life, in a sense of maturing. Going through high school is usually really important.
Yeah. How many siblings do you have?
I have one older sister and one younger sister.
So do you pop up in that a lot?
They pop up more than I do.
Okay. Is that a good thing or a bad thing?
Well, I don't know. My younger sister is in this quite a bit more than me, but that's okay. My mother and sister were pretty close at that time, and so I think that's why she's probably in it more than I am at this point, because they were so close, and I was out doing my thing with my friends.
Yeah, I mean, a journal entry from 1980 would look a lot different in a journal entry in 2022. Things go on different.
Yeah.
So I'm sure maybe in her other journals you popped up a little
Well,
bit more.
I think I'm her favorite now, but I don't know.
Yeah, so her current journal you're coming
Right, exactly. Yeah.
Okay. Well, one thing that maybe you don't know is I did a video earlier where I wrote in a journal consecutively just for 21 days, and I've been on and off. It's really hard to write in a journal.
It is.
This particular conversation is kind of unique because we're not talking about your journal. We're not talking about why it's important to you, but a journal that affected you. And so you're more than halfway through. What's kind of stood out? What's one of your favorite stories?
So there's a couple good ones in here that I remember extremely well. And tell you the truth, a couple of stories in here I was kind of surprised my mother even put them in the entry. I had no idea. Tell you the truth, I had no idea what was in these journals at all until I started this probably 6 months ago or so. And
Like, didn't know they existed?
no, I knew they existed,
Okay.
but I never they're a private, thing, and I didn't know honestly if my mother ever wanted us to read them while she was still alive,
Yeah, that's true.
and didn't know. So I never really pried. And then one day she asked me, would I be interested in the journals when she passes? She goes, if not, that's fine. I says, really? Of course, absolutely, I would be interested in them. And she asked me, would I like one of them now? And I says, absolutely. And so she lives in Utah, and she brought it up.
Yeah.
And
What part?
but back to the question, one of the things that was significant not only to me and to our family, I think it was significant to the world. And it is in 1977, August 16th, 1977. I don't know how many people probably that rings a bell to, but it will when I tell you, it was the death of Elvis Presley. And she has in here that he was 42 years old, and he passed away under conditions that were really sad.
Drugs, right?
It was drugs. He was literally on the throne when he passed away, and that's kind of humiliating. It just that the King of Rock had passed away. But yeah, he was into uppers and downers. He was a night owl, but most entertainers are.
Yeah.
And especially musicians. And but she had noted in here his greatness and the sadness of his passing, and it was a sad day for the world, and it really was.
Did she find out on a television? Did she find out on a radio?
So
I mean, 70s. Obviously, I was born in '92. I don't really know. Right.
Yeah, it was. Of course, it was a different world back then, and communication was really the two biggest platforms of communication. I mean, newspapers, of course,
Yeah.
but it was either radio or television.
Yeah.
And it was on the radio, and most people knew before the news even came about. But and tell you the truth, I don't know for sure, but I'll bet dimes and donuts that it probably was breaking news, and whatever show was on was interrupted.
Interrupted, yeah. Okay.
And so I'm sure it was. But my mother, they didn't even have the television on at the time. I came home from work, and I heard it on the radio, and I told my mother about it, and she didn't believe me. She thought I was joking. I have, and I think all of us have a sense of humor, but I pulled a lot of jokes. I was a prankster.
Yeah.
And
So yeah, you'd come over.
yeah,
Okay,
she thought I was pulling a sick joke, and I was serious, and she finally took me serious. And she mourned quite heavily. She cried, and I'm sure a lot of women did.
Yeah.
So it was but it was kind of cool reading about it. And as I've told you before, when you asked me to do this interview, that it was interesting. This is her perspective.
Yeah.
Not necessarily the way I remember it, but it was interesting to hear her perspective on whatever events. And so there's a lot of interesting stuff in here, and it's kind of motivated me to get back into journaling.
Oh yeah, yeah. That's a big motivator. I know you haven't finished this one and you haven't switched out for the next one, but have you talked to her about any of these days? Like called her up and just said, "Hey, I just read your Elvis Presley entry. What's all that about?"
Absolutely. That was one of them I did call her about. There was a couple that relating to some old friends that in the church that had things happen and memories and things like that. I'd call her and say, I just read this entry. And it was funny that she actually, some of it I'd read it to her, and she didn't remember that like that. And,
yes.
Even her entries, and I found out with mine that I've read in the past, and I haven't journaled for a lot of years, but when I went back and read them, I thought, I don't remember it like that. But it was.
Oh yeah. Even I recognize that even in the video I did where I did it consecutively, I forget a lot of things. But I wrote down what I trained that day. I'm like, when's the last time I did chest? When's the last time I did arms? I just looked in the journal. I'm like, oh yeah, that was Thursday. That was Friday.
Yeah.
Like those are like small inconsequential things, but yeah, like to go back like years after the fact.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
And the most cringiest ones that I've read of my further journals is like old girlfriends that I've had and stuff. And I'm just like, man, I was really head over heels for this girl that I'm not even married to.
There is one in here about one of my girlfriends as well. If speaking of, and she was my longest girlfriend standing at the time, and most significant at that time. My parents really liked her. But anyways, but yeah, some things my mother wrote about that surprised me.
I know that was an abrupt cutoff, but thank you for watching part 1. Part 2 will come out. It will include, amongst other things, the prices of Utah real estate in the late 1970s, and a bunch of other great insights from Dirk Atherley. But yeah, part 2, maybe a part 3 will be in this series, and stay tuned. They'll be coming out soon.